Hello friends, Heidi here from Rain Country. God is good all the time. Well, I'm finally getting around to showing you how to crochet your own basket. Now I've got various sizes here. You can see this is a bigger one. And I've made bigger ones with the handle that goes over the top. But for the bigger ones, I prefer the handles like this. And then here's this one's kind of medium size. You can see I put the little bows on the side. And then I was making one year for my dance students, I was making them all just as a little gift, little baskets about this size, and then putting treats in them and giving them to them. It was just something fun to do. All right, how to get started is the first thing you want to do is make sure you have, depending on the size of your basket, maybe a few yards of fabric. It can take quite a bit. I wish I knew, because it's actually been a long time since I made this basket. And these baskets were all just made with scrap fabric, and I don't remember how much I used of them at that time. But if for a small basket, maybe a yard. And it's just a guess, people. I'm just saying, look and see if you have a bunch of fabric on hand already. Just see what you have the most of and start with that. And then obviously it's going to depend on the size of your basket. Also, depending on how coarse you want it to look, like this was cut with wider strips than this one. I say start with at least an inch wide. You don't want to go any narrower than that. And up to 2 inches wide in your strips. So you see what I did was you take your fabric, the first thing you want to do is cut one strip and just rip it off there to make sure that your edge is straight. Because a lot of times when they cut your fabric at the fabric store, they may look like they're cutting it straight, they may be cutting it straight, but on the actual yard, bolt of fabric, it might be cutting crooked. And so you want to make sure you have a nice, very straight, very square edge to work with. Then from that point on, just cut some snips at least an inch wide up to 2 inches wide, depending on how big your basket you want. This is made with probably inch wide fabric strips, and this I'm thinking 1.5 inches. And then you're just simply going to rip your strips, each strip down, and just rip yourself off maybe 10 to 20 strips to start with. You're going to need more than that. But you will have your fabric to just keep working on. The nice thing about this is you can add to it as you go. Now how you do that, I've already got a few strips put together right here. You can see that. And then what you do is you're going to take your strip on each end. You need to do this on each end. You're going to fold it like this, just over a little bit, and then you're going to put a small snip right in the center. You see right there, that little snip, and then you're going to unfold it. Now make sure you do the same thing on the other end. You're going to need to do this on both ends. Snip. Okay, so now I've got a little snip right here, and this is how it should look. That's kind of a big one there, but like that. This is a little on the small side. You want it big enough that you can put this through. But even if it's small to start with, it'll stretch as you go through it. Then, let me show that again. So you take the end of the one, you just push it through the hole of the other end. Now this is the end piece. I'm going to be starting from this other end of this when I start crocheting it. And then I take the opposite end of the new piece I'm adding, and I'm going to put it through the hole of that same piece at the very beginning, the piece that I just threaded through the previous strip's hole. And then I'm going to pull it through there, and then just pull it up, and then gently pull this into a knot. Okay, don't pull it too hard or you'll rip through your fabric. So let me do another one. I gotta make some snips. So I fold it and just make a little snip, being careful not to get, boy, the end of these needs to be sharpened. Making sure not to get too close to this end here, and then do the same thing here. And after I do this, I'll go ahead and show you how I start crocheting it, because I can always add to it later. I just say, you know, go ahead and hook up several pieces at a time and then add as you go, okay? So I've got new piece, previous piece. Taking the new piece and pushing it through the hole of the previous piece. Okay, now it looks like that. Now I come out here and get this end and push it through the hole of the new piece, the opposite end of the new piece, and then just pull it through and then tighten it up. And you might want to pull these little threads are going to happen. That's from the tearing process. And you'll have to just occasionally pull those off. I find the easiest thing to do is just go like this. Okay, so then I pull it, carefully pulling it tight. I guarantee that at least once you'll end up ripping through your hole there. But that once you've got it crocheted, you don't have to worry about that happening. I've had these baskets, I probably made them maybe as much as 10 years ago. Now, I didn't bother putting a hole in the end of this one. This is my starting end. There's no need to do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by making a magic circle. Now I'll show it here, but if you want a more detailed video, I have one on how to make the magic circle, and I'll go ahead and link to it right up here. And I have a whole series of the basics of crocheting to get you started. It's my Crochet 101 series. So anyway, I'll just do a quick run through here. I'm going to wrap it around my 2 fingers like that twice. Okay, so let me show it again. You want enough that you can wrap it and then hold it like that. Okay, now I'm going to take my hook, and I think this is an N. I don't have any of Mr. Rain's, you know, the hooks that he's made in this big a size. This is the size you're going to want to start with. So that's why I'm using the aluminum one here, because I don't have a wooden one this big. Well, I have a bamboo one, which I should go get the bamboo ones. Okay, so let me do that one more time. So I go under here, and then I'm going to grab this, pull up that loop, and then come back over, grab this, and pull up that loop. Okay, now I can let go of this end, and then from here I'm going to start with 5 single crochets in the magic circle. Now you'll find this is much more difficult to work. You're going to go a lot slower trying to work this than you will working a yarn. It's thicker, it's rough, but anyway. Okay, so that should be 5 single crochets. And I do, again, also have more videos on how to do the single crochet. If you're very new to crocheting, you're going to need to learn those steps first. You can go check out the whole series, but I'll link to the whole series right here, actually, so you can see how it all goes. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, then you're just going to, you know, this is a magic circle, so you can just pull that up nice and tight. So for the next round, you're going to want to do 2 single crochets in each single crochet. And this is where it starts getting a little more difficult because you're working with fabric here. And it's actually best if that first round you don't pull it too tight. But anyway, 2 single crochets in each one around. Okay, so now I have 10 single crochets around. So then for the next round, you're going to want to do 1 and then 2, 1 and then 2, like that. So what you're going to do is you're increasing each round by 5 stitches. So it's good to know your multiples. 5s are easy anyway. That's one of the reasons why I always work in 5s. So the first round has 5, the second round has 10, the third round is going to have 15. So I do 1 single crochet here, 2 single crochets in the next stitch around. And I recommend that you also mark your stitch, like a bobby pin works really good, so I should have marked back here. That way when I get around, I'll know right where I was. But when I'm working stuff like this, you know, and I know I'm not going to make that many rounds, I usually don't bother marking. I just keep track of how many, and then always count it to make sure that's how many I actually have. So I'm going to keep working this, and then my next round will be, my next round after I finish this one, I'm going to go single crochet, one single crochet in the next, in the first two, and then two in the next. So now I'm working in sets of 4, and so I'll have 20 stitches around. I think that's probably the biggest I'm going to go. So I'll go ahead and finish this out, and then I'll show you what, you know, my base circle. This is the bottom of the basket here. Okay, it's this part right here. And then once I get that done, I'll show you what we do next. Okay, so I have my base done because I'm just making a little basket. Remember, I'm making one about this size right here. And what you're going to want to do is, before you start on the next step, is you might want to weave your starting end in a couple times. It's going to be easier to do at this point than by waiting until later. So just weave that in, you know, a few times, and then just cut off the excess. And I recommend having your end come out from the bottom. The bottom's not really going to show, or you can do it from the inside, and then just trim it off short. You're going to have little rough edges anyway, so it's doubtful anyone's even going to see it. Okay, so now to start on the sides, what you need to do to get it to start looking like this is, instead of working through both loops, so if you know a little bit about crochet, you should know that typical stitch, your standard stitch, goes under both loops of the previous stitch. But on this one, you're only going to go through that, what's called the back loop. And it's going to be, it might be a little harder to see in this particular kind of thing, so you might need to separate it out and then look like that. And so you're just working in the back loop, and that's what's going to give it a rim, an edge that looks like this right here. And then it will also cause the rest of the stitches to go upright, and plus you're only working one stitch in each stitch, so you're not increasing anymore. You've already gone as many as you're going to go. So just keep working in that back loop. Boy, this is much harder than working with yarn. You gotta really find that back loop there. And I did just add, while I was off camera there, I did add some more onto the base piece there, so I could have more to work with. And I'll keep adding more as I go. And I'm pretty sure I'll need to rip more. I've got a few more over there I can add. But anyway, so this should be, by the time I get to the end, it will be 20 stitches around. So I'll continue this and then show you how it looks. Okay, so now you can see I've already got my walls. They're starting to come up around the side. I've made it all the way around one time. As you can see, I'm just working in a spiral. Now another way you can do this is by doing your round, like you'll do one chain stitch that would count as your first single crochet in each around, and then connect to the first single crochet, then do a chain stitch that counts as your first single crochet in a round. I like working in a spiral. Now it might leave kind of a weird little thing right here, but that's not really going to be noticeable. You probably can't even see what I can see here, but it sort of goes like this. But once you continue around, you're going to finish your rounds out by working through both loops like you did before. That's the only round there. That last one I did is the only round that you do working only in the back loops. And then how many rounds you do just depends on how tall you want your basket. So I'll finish that out, and when I get to there, then I'll show you how to make the handle. Okay, and then what you're going to do is you're just going to chain stitch. You're going to make the handle now. You're just going to chain stitch as many stitches as you want to get the handle the size you want. Okay, so this looks like about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, about 15 stitches. So I just did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so then what you're going to want to do is, once you got the handle, as long as you want it, now this could be good enough for a handle right here. Okay, but if you want it a little stiffer and a little thicker, like I've got in that other basket there, then what you're going to want to do is find approximately the center this way. Now I'm going to go just to the side of that center, and I'm going to slip stitch into this stitch, and you want to make sure that your chain here did not twist in the process, which could be a little tricky when you're doing that. And then I'm going to go ahead and slip stitch into the next one over like this. And this is going to give me a thicker handle because I'm going to come right back and I'm going to single crochet in each chain stitch all the way back to the other side. And I'm probably going to need a little bit more fabric. I did rip out a few more pieces. One thing I should have said is when you do that chain, if you're going to make a thick handle like this, chain a little bit loose. I always tend to crochet very tightly, and then it makes it hard working back through the chain. Okay, and then when you get to the end, you're going to slip stitch into the next stitch over from where you started the handle. And look, I didn't even need to add any more fabric. Okay, and then I just do a finish off stitch there, which is basically just, you're just pulling it through like you're making another chain. All right, so now what you want to do with your tail that you have here left over is get a hook that's a couple sizes smaller, and then use that. That's what I like to do. I do that even with just regular crocheting with yarn, is I'll just get a couple size smaller hook than the hook I was working with, and then I just kind of weave it in like this. I'll even sometimes, if with the basket I'm not concerned about it, but I'll even do basically, you know, a slip stitch in a few places to be sure that end is not going to come out. So I'll do that again here. And notice I'm working it in from the inside of the basket. Okay, and then you can tuck that end in somewhere and just snip it off. And there you have it. There's your little basket. And I was right, I think these colors look pretty good. I wouldn't say it totally looks like a straw basket. It's a little bit lighter than that in color, but I still think it looks pretty cute. Now, as an added touch, you can take any of your leftover strips. Make sure you pull all these loose threads off here. Of course, if you cut it, if you just cut each piece, you're not going to have that, but cutting isn't, I don't recommend, because you're not going to get straight strips. It's really hard to cut strips that long and that thin and make sure they're going to be perfectly straight. And it's just, it takes a lot longer to cut. Anyway, you could just take your little ends and then whatever you got left over, and then just tie a little bow on there, like I did here or here, just to add a little more cuteness to it. And I would do one on each side. See what I'm doing? I'm making the bow first before I cut the piece. So once I got that bow where I want it, then I can cut my end here. I find it better to cut it at an angle. I think it just looks a little bit better. See? And then you can repeat that on the other side. All right, and there you have it. And it is actually pretty easy to make. It's not complicated, I should say, but it is harder to work with strips of fabric like this than it is just working with yarn. I can't work nearly as fast making something like this as I can just crocheting with regular yarn. I can move pretty fast on that. But anyway, it's still a fun project, and you know, making a basket like this, I would recommend, if you're going to want to do a handle like this on a basket that's at least this size and up, you may want to consider, and that's what I did with this one, is I actually weaved a little bit of wire through here to help that handle stay upright. And especially if you're going to do one on a basket this size and you're going to have a handle like this, I recommend finding some wire that you can put in there, and then you can kind of see it here. You can see it a little bit right there. There, the wire, but I'm making sure it's on the underside when I work it through and not showing from the top. And that will give your handle more rigidity. It's just not important with a basket this size because it's small enough that it's not going to flop over. So there's no need for a wire in that one. I've used these baskets for many things. I have a couple more around here. Another one that's this size that I keep in my living room. And that one I put in like my lighters and just anything that has to do with the fireplace. And some other cute uses for this would be to set it on your table and put your table napkins in it. All kinds of different things you can do with these baskets, and then the variety of sizes you can come up with and colors and patterns is just totally up to you. This one doesn't have any bows on it, but it has that little beaded thing. I showed it in another video. So it just depends on what you want to do, the look you're going for, and you know, it's a really great idea for a gift item. You know, you make something, I would say maybe this size, you can put some of your homemade bath goodies in there, soaps and stuff, and give it to someone like that. Or, you know, like this size, you can put, you know, make a little candle and put it in there and just give it as a gift. Just a fun project for anyone to do. And there you have it. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video and that you learned something new. And don't forget to check out my Crochet 101 series that I have out, and that I have linked, and I will go ahead and link it again at the end of this video so you can find it there easily enough. Okay, thanks for watching. Take care and God bless.